One day I received a call from Harper about this year's Thanksgiving plans. Her voice was as sweet as honey, yet it carried nothing but a sense of foreboding. "Hello, Natalie. This year I'm going to be the host for Thanksgiving. I'm planning to invite the whole family and hold a party at a super stylish restaurant by the lake. There will be organic turkey, a dessert buffet by a famous pastry chef. It will be perfect for Instagram. Don't you think it's amazing?" As I listened to her rapid-fire description of the extravagant plan, I became certain this was a show built entirely on vanity and pretension, meant to impress her social media followers and her husband's relatives. But the venue fee and the catering, I kind of went overboard and the budget is a little tight. My husband is really strict about these things, and he won't let me take from our savings. So, I have a favor to ask you, of course. She wanted to flaunt extravagance she couldn't afford and push the bill onto me. Noah and Grace will surely have a lifelong memory if they can join such a wonderful party. You wouldn't want the children to feel miserable, would you? Just because you're a single mother, it would be so sad if they couldn't have the same experiences as other kids, right? Can't you help me out? The way she shamelessly used my children as leverage filled me with rage from the bottom of my stomach. However, from the other end of the line, Noah must have sensed the conversation because I heard his excited voice cry out, "A party? I want to go. Will there be turkey?" Grace also lit up and asked, "Can I wear a princess dress?" Hearing those innocent voices, I thought about how rarely we had family gatherings these days and how it might be a good opportunity for the kids. For the sake of their memories, I decided to shoulder the cost. "All right, I'll pay." "Really? You're the best sister ever." "Thank you." Hearing my sister's buoyant voice on the other end of the line, I forced myself to accept it in my heart. This is an investment for the children. Compared to their smiles, my pride is insignificant. I had no idea that this decision would become the beginning of a nightmare that would overturn my life from its very foundation. My name is Natalie Cooper, 35 years old. I am a single mother raising my 8-year-old son Noah and my 6-year-old daughter Grace. I work as a manager in the investment division at Merrill Strategic Capital, a major financial institution. I majored in economics at university and joined this company as a new graduate 13 years ago. At first, I was in a general position, but thanks to my natural intuition for numbers and analytical skills, I was recognized and gradually promoted step by step. After my divorce, building a career as a single mother while raising my children was never easy. After school programs, summer day camps, babysitters during overtime hours, childcare is expensive. Still, I love this job. The thrill of deciphering the truth hidden behind the numbers and devising an investment strategy was something that could not be replaced by anything else. I earned enough to provide my children with a life without deprivation. Harper is 3 years younger than me. She asked me for money for Thanksgiving. I suspected that maybe she was only putting up appearances and actually struggling financially. Since she has always been prideful, she never complains to me. But that was my impression. Then one night, just a few days before the Thanksgiving party, in the living room after the children had gone to sleep, I was looking over the final checklist. At that moment, my smartphone vibrated softly. It was an email from Harper. The subject line read, "Something important about Thanksgiving." Something important. I felt a sense of dread as I opened the email. What was written there were cruel words that I could hardly believe with my own eyes. "Dear Natalie, sorry for the sudden message. I've been thinking a lot, but I think it's better if you don't come to this year's Thanksgiving. Your presence would ruin the party. You understand, don't you? Some of the relatives don't feel comfortable about your current situation. In other words, about you, being a single mother. For the sake of my husband, too, this is a decision I'm making for everyone. Of course, Noah and Grace are welcome. I'll take care of them, so don't worry." My breath stopped. I felt the blood in my body rapidly turn cold. The smartphone screen blurred and I could barely see it. Ruin the party. Even though I was the one who paid all the expenses for this party, my presence. Beyond anger, I felt something icy, something at absolute zero crawl up my spine. And the final sentence, "Only the children are welcome." She wanted to take my children away from me and play the role of the kind-hearted aunt who takes care of her poor niece and nephew. With trembling fingers, I reached out to my parents as well. I called them because I wanted to confirm with the last shred of hope whether this was just Harper's twisted idea. After a few rings, my mother's voice answered the phone, sounding extremely displeased. Hello? What is it calling at this hour? Mom, I'm sorry. I got an email from Harper. It's about Thanksgiving. When I explained the situation, my mother let out a sigh. That matter. I already heard from Harper. Follow her judgment. She is the one who considers the family's reputation above all else. You should learn to read the room a little more, and that would be just right. That is your role, isn't it? Your role. Those words pierced my heart like an icy stake. I see. The whole family was in on it. They only saw me as a source of money, and beyond that, they felt nothing about trampling on my dignity. At that moment, something inside me snapped sharply and unmistakably. I no longer intended to beg or argue. There was no need to prove my worth to people who looked down on me as a defective product and saw me as nothing but a wallet. Taking a deep breath, I sent Harper a reply with just one line. Fine. Then you won't be there either, will you? And the moment I pressed the send button, I began to act to end this farce that had lasted for years with my own hands. Then you won't be there either. Not a single tear fell. My mind was astonishingly clear, and tasks I needed to do lined up one after another. There was not a single second to waste on emotion. I would quietly and completely dismantle everything I had built and everything they had trampled on with their dirty shoes. That was all. First, I opened my laptop and called the lakeside restaurant. My voice was surprisingly calm, even to myself. Yes, the reservation number is 75 BC. Yes, this is Natalie Cooper. Yes, that's right. It's regarding the Thanksgiving party reservation. I'd like to cancel it, please. The staff member on the line sounded a little surprised, but when I explained the situation briefly yet firmly, they seemed to immediately understand. That must have been difficult. Understood. Please don't worry. There will be no cancellation fee. There was a clear note of sympathy in their voice. That single phrase made me feel, if only slightly, that I was not alone. The $2,200 venue fee was fully refunded to my credit card. The word refunded displayed on the screen looked like a small declaration of victory. Next was the catering service. When I looked back at the photos of the menu, anger made me feel sick. The expensive dishes Harper had chosen while saying Noah would probably like this and Grace would love this. Not once had she asked me what my children actually liked. It was all nothing but props for her social media. I called customer service and in a mechanical tone requested the cancellation. Fortunately, since the ingredients had not yet been ordered, the deposit I had paid was refunded in full. And then there was one more thing, something I must not forget. Last month, Harper had called me in tears saying, "My car won't start because of an accident. I can't tell my husband. Please help me." And I had advanced the repair costs for her. Harper had caused several accidents before, and her husband had told her to refrain from driving. That was why she could not confess to him and turn to me instead. "You're the only one I can rely on, Natalie," she had said, and I believed her. Of course, partly because she is my sister. But not only that, it was also because this was a teaching from my late grandmother. Grandmother always told us sisters, if someone is in trouble, help them. That kindness will return to you one day. Because it was my beloved grandmother's teaching, I had believed it for many years. The payment had been put on my credit card in installments. I immediately contacted the credit card company and took steps to stop all future payments to that repair shop. As I explained the circumstances to the operator, I was forced to realize again just how foolish I had been. By the time all the procedures were completed, it was past 2 a.m. I brewed myself a cup of coffee in the kitchen. Outside the window, everything was wrapped in quiet darkness, but inside my heart, a silent flame of determination was burning. I opened my laptop and created a new folder. The name was Evidence. There I saved one by one. The payment statements for the restaurant and catering, the screenshots of emails from Harper and my mother, and records of the expenses I had covered in the past. This was a war to reclaim my dignity, and in war, weapons are necessary. There was no contact from Harper or my parents. Surely they believed that my reply of fine meant I had quietly backed down. They never imagined that I would strike back. And then the fateful day of Thanksgiving arrived. Our home was filled not with the scent of an extravagant turkey, but with the savory aroma of golden roasted chicken. Noah helped mash the potatoes, and Grace was in charge of tasting the cranberry sauce. "Mom's chicken is the best in the whole world," Noah said as he took a big bite. And I fought hard to hold back my tears. Even without an expensive restaurant, being together with my beloved children was more than enough. It was a peaceful afternoon in which I could feel that from the bottom of my heart. That silence was broken a little after 11 a.m. The shrill ring of my smartphone echoed loudly. On the screen, the name read, "Sister Harper." I did not answer. When the call ended, the next was from my mother. When I ignored that too, it was from my father and then Harper again. Missed call notifications piled up one after another. Later, I heard from my aunt that at that very time, a scene of chaos was unfolding at the restaurant. Dressed up, Harper and my parents proudly led all the relatives to the venue, only to find that, of course, no reservation existed. "There must be some mistake. I made the reservation," Harper shouted in a frenzy. But the manager calmly told her the reservation was canceled 3 days ago by Miss Natalie Cooper herself, leaving them standing frozen on the spot. The catering never arrived either, as the payment had not been made. In front of the relatives, the whole family was utterly humiliated. And just as I predicted, all of their anger turned toward me. The door of my house was pounded as if it might break. When I opened it, Harper stood there, her eyes bloodshot, breathing heavily. "Natalie, how dare you? How dare you do something like this? You dragged our name through the mud. What are you going to do about it?" I answered calmly, but firmly. "What are you talking about? I didn't attend the party just as you told me. After all, I wasn't invited. Don't play dumb. You canceled it, didn't you? You're the worst. You defective piece of trash." Hurling insults, Harper tried to force her way into the house. I stopped her and said quietly, "Yes, that's right. I canceled it. Why should I, the one who supposedly ruins the atmosphere, pay for your party?" "What did you say?" "That money was yours to pay. We're family. I won't spend a single cent for people who don't even see me as family." At those words, Harper was struck silent for a moment. Seizing that moment, I turned toward the PC in the living room. I had prepared everything for this very moment. The reservation confirmation and cancellation notice PDF from the restaurant, the catering payment statement, the screenshot of the email from Harper excluding me from the party, and also the memo of my phone conversation with my mother, along with the screenshot of her email agreeing with it. I attached them all to an email and sent it to all the relatives at once. My finger trembled slightly like the shiver before battle as I pressed the send button. The email read as follows. Subject: The truth about the Thanksgiving party. Dear all, I apologize for the inconvenience caused by today's cancellation of the party. To avoid confusion, I am sharing the facts here. Please review the attached documents. Natalie Harper was still shouting something at the front door. "What are you doing?" I returned to her and showed her the sent screen on my smartphone. Everyone knows now. This is the truth. At that moment, Harper's smartphone began to vibrate. Messages from the relatives started to pour in from my aunt. "Shame on you." From my cousin. "Apologize to Natalie." From my uncle. "Don't ever contact me again." With each notification popping up on her screen, I could see the color drain from Harper's face. Anger turned into confusion, and confusion into despair. No way. She collapsed helplessly on the spot. I turned my back on her and quietly closed the door. This was my declaration of war, and it was the day I severed ties with my old family. That day, the door I shut tightly did not merely shut Harper out. It symbolized my breaking free from the curse of a twisted family that had bound me for so long. In the days that followed, my phone did not ring. No insults, no whining, nothing from them at all. But that silence was proof of a violent storm raging beneath the surface. A few days later, the one who called me was my mother's sister, Aunt Martha. She had always been sympathetic to me, often saying, "Natalie, you work too hard," and worrying about me. "Natalie, are you all right?" This has turned into something terrible. What she told me was the full extent of the family's collapse that I had not seen. That day at the restaurant, when my relatives received my email, a fierce argument broke out on the spot. One of my uncles grabbed my father by the collar and shouted, "What have you been making Natalie do all this time? and you call yourself a father?" My father said nothing while my mother kept screaming, "It's not Harper's fault. It's Natalie's fault for not enduring as an older sister should." There was not a single person who sided with them. That night, Harper was confronted by her husband. He is a man who values his social reputation above all else. To learn that his wife had been extorting money from her own sister and had brought humiliation upon him in front of all the relatives. That truth made him furious. "You have disgraced me. More than that, your entire family is rotten," he declared. And on the spot, he demanded a divorce and drove Harper out of the house. Harper lost everything. However, I had one more thing prepared. It was the exposure of Harper's false image on social media. I had secretly saved screenshots of her account for months. Pictures of lavish dinners, piles of designer goods, countless posts flaunting an elegant lifestyle, and behind it all was the reality funded by the money she had drained from me. Furthermore, I had recordings of the true face she had shown only to me, her voice mocking single mothers as pathetic and pitiful, her sneering words about my children being useful tools, and most of all, her cruel words from the Thanksgiving incident. "Don't come, you'll ruin the party." For her, with 30,000 followers as an influencer, this was fatal. I created a new account and published a post that included the photos, recordings, and a detailed account of all her lies and deceptions. The title was "Behind the Perfect Wife," the truth about a woman who exploited her sister for money and looked down on a single mother. In an instant, the exposé spread widely. The comments from her former followers were merciless. "She was a terrible human being. I was deceived. I'm ashamed I ever followed someone like this." The firestorm would not stop, and Harper was forced to delete her account. Her repeated lies and financial issues proved fatal in the divorce proceedings. As a result, the property division she received was almost nothing. All she was allowed to take were just a few brand-name handbags. Driven out of the penthouse, Harper tearfully returned to her parents' home. However, that was no safe haven either. Because of my email, my parents' standing had also collapsed completely. From the community volunteer group they had been part of for years came the words, "Having people like you here lowers the dignity of the association," which was effectively an expulsion. My father, who had looked forward to his weekend golf outings, no longer received a single invitation from his friends. It was only then that they finally realized they had been completely isolated from both their relatives and the community. Aunt Martha lowered her voice as she continued. "Your father called me," he said. "I want to apologize to Natalie. How can I earn her forgiveness?" "So," I told him, "what you really need to do is not apologize to Natalie. What you must do is be ashamed of your own foolishness for relying on her and continuing to make her suffer." And Harper, as for her, she now shuts herself up in her childhood bedroom at her parents' house, spending her days without speaking to anyone. All her social media accounts have been deleted, and the perfect self she had so desperately built has vanished without a trace. And what tightens the noose around her life the most is that car problem, that car that had broken down, the one for which I stopped the payments. She has no way to pay the $2,500 repair bill. At first, Harper borrowed her husband's car to get around, but after the divorce, that became impossible. She had no choice but to rely on public transportation, which made even her job hunting difficult. She was late for interviews. Her commuting costs piled up and the vicious cycle continued. With no way out, Harper reluctantly decided to sell her car. It was a desperate measure, hoping it would bring her at least some money. But after all, it was a broken-down vehicle. With the engine making strange noises and the air conditioner not working, no dealer would buy such a used car for a reasonable price. In the end, the car that had cost nearly $30,000 when purchased was bought for only $800. A miserable conclusion. Worse still, even that $800 was deducted for her unpaid repair bills at the workshop, leaving Harper with almost nothing in her hands. The luxury car she had chosen for appearances had now become a shackle tightening around her neck. Without a car, she couldn't find work, and without work, she couldn't rebuild her life. Harper was completely cornered and finally had no choice but to face reality. With no qualifications and nothing but pride, there was no place willing to hire her. Even her parents, who had doted on Harper so much, now treated her coldly after. seeing her true nature. They grew harsher with her for not working, and a few weeks later they told her she would have to leave. Of course, not everything became bright and clear right away. There were nights when I woke up alone, asking myself if this had truly been the right thing to do. But it was my children who blew away those doubts. One weekend morning, I said to Noah and Grace, "I'm sorry the big Thanksgiving party was canceled. It was my fault." Then Noah looked at me with a puzzled expression. "No, Mom, it wasn't your fault. I got to eat your chicken and potatoes, and I got to race Grace while eating, and it was so much fun." Grace nodded vigorously. "That's right. The party at home was the best. Let's do it again." They were happy without expensive restaurants or lavish gifts as long as they had my smile and my love. When I realized that, I broke down crying in front of my children. But those were not tears of sadness. They were warm, cleansing tears. From that moment on, even though our material life did not change, our spiritual life became dramatically richer. On weekends, the three of us baked cookies, filling the house with a sweet aroma. We went to the park and competed to see who could swing higher, or borrowed books from the library and read them aloud, changing our voices for each character. Each of those simple, inexpensive moments felt more vivid and colorful than ever before. Aunt Martha has now become part of our new family. She often visits us with her homemade apple pie, and she happily tells my children stories about my childhood, how mischievous I was, and how deeply I cared for my sister. Every time I heard those stories, I felt as if I were regaining a part of myself that I had once lost. There was also a turning point in my career. Last month, the investment project I led in an emerging market achieved great success. It was a project I handled entirely on my own. From risk analysis to the formulation of investment strategies, the company's evaluation of me was excellent, and I was even hinted at a promotion to deputy director next year. Boundaries is not cold, nor is it selfish. It is the most honest and most loving act to protect myself and the hearts of those who truly matter. And blood alone does not create family. A real family is formed by relationships where we respect each other, care for each other, and can laugh together from the